This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Welcome to the Monday, April 22nd meeting of the Easthampton Energy Advisory Committee. Jamie Pocket, the chair of the committee, joined by committee members Connie Dawson, Cassie Eckhoff, Josh Rosenblatt, and John Pepe, taking advantage of our hybrid meeting scenario. So good reason to keep doing that. We've had a couple other meetings recently, so we'll get started with a call to review and approve the minutes from the past two meetings on March 25th and the extra one we added on April 4th.
It was the 24th, wasn't it?
Which one?
Wrong date. It was 3/24, wasn't it?
Was it?
Maybe I put the wrong date on.
I think it was the 25th, but that's okay.
I'll have to.
I think we can vote to. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve both meeting minutes.
I second.
All right. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Do you approve?
Yeah, you're right. It has to be the 25th.
Okay, so you can go ahead and submit those. Make the small correction and do
Yeah,
that.
I'll fix that.
All right, I do see we have some members of the public joining us both online and here. Is anybody that brought something they'd like to speak about today?
Just curious what y'all have been talking about.
Okay,
Interesting topics on your agenda.
great.
And just for the folks online, if you want to make a comment, you can use the raise hand function, which is on the bottom there, along the bottom of your screen to the left of the red end call button. Click on the hand symbol and that would indicate to us that you want to make a comment. I do not see it.
Yeah, thank you. And not introduce you. Oh, we do have a raised hand, so. Cassie, our conservation agent, will on the controls here, so.
Yes, you're listed as unknown, but you should have the ability to unmute yourself if you'd like to make a public comment.
Thank you. I did unmute myself. My name is Kathy Wazinski. I live at 22 Overlook Drive. I was just wanting to ask a question. Are these meetings always at 3:00 in the afternoon? I was noticing some comments on Facebook that other people wanted to attend, but obviously it was in the middle of their workday. So I just wanted to make that comment, and I'm really just here to sort of listen to the agenda and figure out what's going on. So thank you.
Could you tell me your name again? I'm sorry. I have to put it into the notes.
Kathy Wazinski.
Thank you.
Could you spell your last name?
Sure. W-A-U-C as in cat, Z as in zebra, I-N-S-K-I.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. Just to the point that you raised, we have tended to meet at 3:00 on Mondays. That's been our standing meeting time for a little while now. It tends to work best for current members of the committee. Cassie Traggart, our conservation agent, who also attends as our liaison with the planning department, it helps for us to put it in her workday. Helps avoids conflict with some other committees that meet in the evenings on days that we've tried to do that. So we don't want to be foiling those who'd like to be here and participate. We certainly welcome that and welcome people that want to be part of the committee. We understand that I work during the day too, so I have to kind of work my work schedule around this. But it's worked okay for us for now. But if people are interested in having something on the agenda or commenting or having a different meeting time, and we get more participation for doing that, we can certainly have that discussion as a committee. That makes sense. So definitely thank you for coming and appreciate your comments. Anybody else, member of the public, that would like to speak? All right, then we will move on to the next portion of the agenda. Some committee updates. again, carry over from the Bees Committee, which I am the serving member of this committee, on that committee. The last meeting there, the focus is on some public outreach coming up in the spring to do sort of information gathering as well as information distribution around native plants, pollinator gardens, lawn maintenance, things like that. There's, a amped up move for No Mow May, which is sponsored by the Xerxes Society, among others. Xerxes Society is the one who handles the Bee City designation. I believe that the City Council has now had a Bee City designation put in front of it. Was that approved?
Yeah, there was a resolution at the last city council meeting to pursue getting that dezegation from Xerxes Society that was approved. It's
Okay.
what I heard.
So approved to move forward, and the committee has a roadmap for how to go about getting that designation. We work them through, as well as again tabling at some upcoming public events, looking at the farmers market, looking at possibly cultural chaos, where we could potentially share a table or share some space with them in the planning department. So that's coming up on June 12th, 13th, something like that.
It is
Whatever the
June.
Saturday is,
Yeah.
the second Saturday
Yeah.
of June. And before that, there is a citywide cleanup day that's going on that Councilor Zarrett, who's also a member of the Peace Committee, is organizing. That's on a Sunday to avoid conflict with, I think, Northampton Pride Parade the previous day. And there's signups available for that for people that want to participate in the citywide cleanup day. It'll be taking place at various points all over the city for trash cleanup. Possibly talking about maybe doing some invasive removal as well as part of that, or as a separate piece. So people that might be interested in removing invasive plants, there could be opportunities.
Do you know
for
what
that
the
too.
date is how to get hold of sign up sheets where they?
For the citywide cleanup
Yeah.
day, I believe they are, I've seen it on Facebook, maybe a
Okay.
link that Owen may have put up there. I don't know that it's coming from any official city
Okay.
group or committee or anything at this point.
Okay.
And the Bees Committee, I don't know if we have a Facebook presence for that yet, but if and when that gets set up, we promote it that way, I believe. I know there was some talk about that at the last meeting. I don't know what the progress is on that. And the next Bees Committee meeting, I believe, is early May. Again, I don't have that date in front of me. Cassie, I don't know if you know it.
I might have it. Give me a
Yeah.
second.
Lack of preparation.
Yeah.
I can't have calendar straight.
I don't have it set on my calendar, unfortunately. The agenda will be posted 48 hours in advance of the meeting date.
Right.
Certainly online, but we can figure it out. Wait. No, you know what we did? May 29th, April 29th.
April 29th, so it's a week from today.
Yes.
Okay.
A week from today. I should see it on here. And the reason was, we couldn't find a time that worked for everybody in early May when we normally would do it, I think.
Right.
So I don't know.
That's right. Yeah, but we did 4 weeks out. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So April 29th through that, those meetings I know are later in the day. For those who might be interested in attending that and taking part, I think those meetings have tended to be at like 5:30 or 6 p.m. So after the normal 9 to 5 work day. So that'll be coming up next week. That's about it I have for that committee at the moment. I mean, one thing I'll say is like, looking at lots of avenues for public outreach because a lot of what they're doing, involves engaging with the public. So in terms of overlap with our committee and ways that, messages that we might want to get out in front of the public, there may be ways that we can work with them or that I can participate and sort of cover ground for both. If there's like tabling opportunities or, city events like cultural chaos and cleanup day and things like that, where we may be able to get some more of our message out. And of course, we also will have some of our own things to get out there for aggregation and climate action plan that we'll talk about here momentarily. Any questions for anybody on Bees Committee work?
I have a question. Carol Broder, 72 Oliver Street. I'm just curious about the bees because I'm very interested in that. I think it's a good thing. But you said we're going forward with getting the resolution and getting it approved with the national thing or
Mhm.
what that being
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Xerxes Society.
And yet, the public doesn't know enough about it, and you kind of do it backwards. I'm wondering why, we can let people more know, because people think bees right away. They think it's just bees,
Right.
And it does involve a lot more. And I think we need more public, education about it. Let people know ahead before all these actions are going forward. I think other than me, I took the initiative that I read it only because I was reading the ordinances or whatever. That's all I knew about it, and that's why I'm here too. I think I like it. I think, and I support the idea of it, but to get the public, since it does involve public and public lawns and public, places and stuff, and work, we work long people to do the work. I think we need to get that out there sooner than just at chaos and all that stuff, cultural chaos. If there's flyers or something that can send out to the general public.
Yeah, I'll say that is being worked on, and there is more stuff that will be happening before that. I would encourage you, if you're interested in that, like that, that committee will focus really heavily on those sorts of things. As I'm bringing it, my dual participation, and where there's crossover, so I'm bringing that to this committee is just kind of informational. Like we can't really discuss anything that's substantive about what that committee is doing here at this point. But if you can attend the meeting there, or have some input, that would be great. Certainly be welcomed. And there may be an opening on that committee too, if you're so moved to participate. You could put your name in for that as well.
Is it crossover between the two committees or cross-pollination?
There we go.
But don't.
That gets in the minutes. Yeah, and I did see some, not to get too far down the rabbit hole here, but there was some interesting debate that I saw pop up online about like no momen, and whether that even message was kind of like the right one, given that there's a lot of nuance involved, and it goes beyond simply like bees and things like that, and there's all these other considerations about what are you actually allowing to grow. You're not mowing it. Is that really the smart thing? So it's some interesting conversations to be had about all that. Like certainly, learning for me, I pieced together some things and have some ideas, but like definitely there's a lot more people and a lot more expertise and things like that out there, and room for debate and discussion about what's the right things to put forward. So April 29th. The next two pieces that were on here, I left just in case if these are priorities or things that the mayor is working on that have been communicated to me, the fleet leasing program, as well as possibly leasing city property for solar. Those I don't have any more information for. If when she's able to join us for a meeting, she can give us some more insight into those things. Neither of them is an ongoing program right now. These are just like ideas, things possibly that might be coming up in the future. So I'll leave those there for now. But our agenda, we'll move on to the climate action plan. When we last left off, we had an extra special meeting a couple weeks ago to address some of the specifics about the priorities within the climate action plan, what Weston and Sampson had identified, giving us a chance to really consolidate some of our feedback on what we thought vis-a-vis their priorities and our priorities, things that we wanted them to change. Connie captured that all pretty well, as well as Cassidy from Weston and Sampson gave us a good thorough rundown of the changes they were going to make based on the feedback that we gave them. So those are the edits from the last meeting. Cassidy, have you seen a newer version or anything yet, or do we know when that might be coming?
I haven't gotten a newer draft yet. I'm going to pull up my calendar really quick to see. I have one of our like bi-weekly meetings with Weston and Sampson. I just want to see when that is scheduled. It's this Thursday or next Thursday. Looks like it's next Thursday. What's the date? Hold on. So yes, on the 2nd of May, I'm meeting with them again. And yeah, basically my understanding is that they're just gonna keep working on and implementing those revisions that were discussed at the last meeting. And yeah, just keep going from there, really. Once we get working our way towards a more final draft that we can share then farther out and solicit more comment on from the public and other departments.
Connie?
As as Cassie very, I thought very kindly pointed out.
Sorry.
No, don't apologize. I suggested an edit that I hadn't discussed in the same, with as much detail as I put into an email. So I just wanted to bring it up where we stand with my suggestion for the trees edit that I suggested.
Can you
I
elaborate on
sent it
that?
in an email. Well, let me pull up my email. The reason I'm interested, I'm concerned is that there actually has the Easthampton city plan, which was written in 2008 or something like that, has a whole section about the tree canopy.
Mhm.
So it's not new, but if we're concerned about climate change, adding to and maintaining the current tree canopy is really very important for the city. And there are cities that, and we are we have the designation. Let me pull up my brilliant email that I sent you guys. Hold on. You'll take me a minute to find it.
Sure. So this is related to possible like replacement of trees or a program that would maintain tree canopy, or if people are cutting stuff down on private property, like replacing that.
And also having, let me
Yeah.
hold on. I'm sorry. Where is this? I don't know where it is now. Let's see. If you want to move on while I hunt for it, that might be a good idea, because I can't meant to find it.
Okay. Cassie, let's talk about the cover art contest, because I know, when was the deadline for that? It's
Midnight tonight.
Midnight tonight. Okay.
Still time,
Okay.
but we have not received any submissions.
Okay. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I feel like that was what you were going to say next. Is there, and I know that there was a folder shared to put some photos in, and when I looked at that at the end of last week, I didn't see a lot in there either. So I think if we wanted, well, open it up to the committee. Do we want to try to, or to you, Cassie, to push the cover art contest out a little bit? Did we get any engagement from any like the art teachers or anything like that?
Yeah, so there's two things. So one, there's cover art contest, and two is photos. So
Right.
for the cover art contest, the way that we reached out is that I emailed all people that was on our list from previous workshops and things like that, people who just generally were interested in a climate action plan. Then I included all the the superintendent for all the different schools, the folks associated with the high school, the middle elementary school, the Neary school, the Hilltown Charter School, and Williston, and emailed all those folks. And they all seemed interested. I got direct responses, spoke with them over the phone. They said they seemed really interested, but then they needed to get that information and then disseminate it to the appropriate teachers, and then they make a decision of whether or not they want to present that to the students, and then the students have decided they want to do it at all. So I don't know which one didn't happen, but I know it's
I did do something directly to the teachers.
Yeah,
In all the schools.
yeah, exactly. So when I spoke to the schools, they were like, it needs to go to like the principals first, so that they can be like, yes, this is okay, and that then that going to the front office can then get spread from there to the teachers that it needs to be to. And so, yeah, so that's one piece of it. And the options for what we could do going forward is either, we could drop it, be like, well, that was interesting to try. We could extend the deadline and then do it again. We could, just kind of put a notice out there that so we're still accepting submissions indefinitely, just see if we get anything and do it that way. Or we could make more changes and go from there generally.
So what is the deadline for when we need to have this piece of art?
It's not today. We just put it as today
Because I'm wondering whether if we're going to be tabling and everything, that would be a time that we can say, we're looking for kids to help us with our cover, and then maybe we'd get some more responses.
That's true. I think what I should do is ask Weston and Sampson if they have a deadline that they would need it by. I would imagine it could be like up to the very end, like, because just throw it on the cover. But we were talking about referencing it potentially like within some other writings in the letters and things like that. So we would want time to be able to do that, I suppose. But I can ask Weston and Sampson if like, what would the full functional deadline need to be? We chose today because it would be memorable because of the day, and hopefully make it easier for people to keep track of. We felt like there should be some kind of defining deadline. But I will ask them that. And I guess the question is like, yeah, do you just, even before that, does the committee feel like they want to keep trying with it, or how do you guys feel?
I think,
Sorry.
good.
I was just gonna say, I think it'd be lovely to have a child's drawing on the cover, if we can find one.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think, we probably want to do some sort of more targeted outreach, maybe to a specific school. Maybe I said anyone who seemed kind of like the most receptive, like let's go down rather than like open-ended, like let's leave it open for, 5 or 6 different schools to respond. Like, let's maybe see if there's one that's particularly interested and engaged. I mean, I can also think of like, I know some kids who are like artists, I can go straight to their parents and say, hey, would they want to do this like, outside of the school context too? And maybe we could get something that way.
Could we place an article in the Hampshire Gazette?
Yes, I actually did do an interview for it for the reminder. I'm remembering as well. That was in there, but it wasn't in the Gazette. That was in the reminder. So, yes, okay.
Yeah. Is there anybody on the committee that's interested in like assisting Cassie in like direct follow up with schools or with teacher? I guess we still need to go through the principals.
Yeah, I'll help you with that.
Okay, yeah, I have like a good idea of like from doing it the first time of who to contact this time. And maybe I can just call them and be like, hey, did you guys end up doing this, or did you not do it, or see what happened? And they can be like, yeah, there just wasn't interest. And if it's just that, there wasn't interest to do it, then that's good to know too.
Right.
So I can maybe start there and then reach out and then just like send it all again. Because it was really easy to reach out. It's all just kind of one email blast.
Yeah.
The other thing I was wondering is whether Cassie or I could just get in touch with the art teachers and say, have you had any kids do any drawings about Earth Day or about the climate?
Or something that they've already done, right?
Yeah,
Could be used for that purpose.
that you would like to submit for this. So
That
just
could be interesting too.
it's already done.
Yeah, I would say, for my personal preference, it would be to, start with Easthampton Public Schools too.
Oh, yeah.
And focus on that.
I agree.
Casting a wider net with, Wilson and the charter school and stuff, but like, let's start with the public schools and, Mountain View and whatever, and see if we can get any traction there, if they were responsive at all the first time. Josh, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, I was going to say, I agree. Starting with public schools is a good idea.
There is somebody online with a hand up. You have a comment somebody would like to make?
Two questions. Well, one question and one suggestion. This is Kathy from 22 Overlook Drive. So, Western Mass Homeschoolers has a Facebook page, and I can bet that some parent would want to be interested in doing that. And they also many of them also do 4-H, and they focus on climate issues.
Okay.
So that might be an option for another resource for you guys. And just wondering where we can find the climate action plan if citizens want to look at it before it's released in that fun book that you guys are planning.
Yes.
Right. We'll get to that part in just a second. But thank you for the suggestion. Thank you, Kathy. Western Mass Homeschoolers could be a good
Absolutely.
place to go to. Again, we have less bureaucracy to get through to get something perhaps. So those are good suggestions. So I would say, let's find out from Weston and Sampson, like, do we have a month? Do they need it in June sometime? Like that is, and then let's see, do a little more targeted, like follow-ups with that. Maybe outreach to the homeschooler group, and see if that bears any fruit. And maybe we can find some other targeted else. I think if there's any like art, like after school programs, there were a couple people I knew that were doing an art after school program previously over in Eastworks. I don't know if that's still going, but I can maybe reach out to them because that might be something they'd be interested in taking on with the group there. So if anyone knows or anything else like that, could be some extra avenues for outreach.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I appreciate the mention of the Facebook group. It had also gone out on the city Facebook, and the planning department Facebook was another place that we posted it. And just generally, informationally, if anybody wants to learn about the current status of the cap or see any of the preceding documents and associated items, if you go onto the city website and in the search bar, just type in CAP, the first or third link should be to the cap webpage. And have all the information is saved there, and it's updated as it's produced. So right now, when you click on it, it'll be the cover art contest, but then if you just keep scrolling, you'll see it's chronologically organized.
Right.
but yeah, there is no draft yet available for review. It's just not ready yet. We don't have but we will certainly. We're going to have a comment.
Yeah, there will be things posted up there. There will be public review and comment options, as well as like internal, like I say, stakeholder reviewing. City departments will be reviewing it and looking things over as it goes. So in the course of what we're doing, our review of the priorities that were identified by Weston and Sampson, which came from public meetings and discussions with city departments and our committee and others. So that's all being synthesized now into what will eventually be sort of draft plan and priorities, and then that will be put out there for review before everything is finalized.
So back to the trees.
Yes.
First of all, I was not aware, or I'd forgotten that the city last spring got the designation as a Tree City USA, which means that there are grants available for tree canopies and education. And I don't even know exactly what, but there are grants available through that organization. But what I wrote was, I'm just going to read what I wrote. I think we should expand the action to explicitly focus on developing an urban forest plan that preserves and expands the tree canopy throughout the city. It should include a program to expand the community's knowledge and awareness of the benefits of the shade tree canopy, a tree inventory of its public shade trees, promote the planting of shade trees on municipal and private property, and a free trees program that gives priority to EJ communities and neighborhoods with less tree cover. So obviously we need a grant for the free trees program, but a lot of communities have free trees programs.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know about anybody else, but it feels like we're losing trees. Everywhere I go, I see mammoth trees are suddenly gone. And it's a serious issue and has a lot to do with helping cities stay cool.
Right.
So, and also I said that when we're talking about enhancing the culture around climate action sustainability, that we should add Arbor Day to the events that we might want to focus on. So.
Okay. And that was augmenting something that was in there, or that was like,
well,
we
had a section that was about, it was very limited in scope about trees.
Okay.
It was one that we said we wanted to keep as a one of our highlighted areas, but I just started thinking about that it doesn't really say as much as I think it really should.
Okay.
So
you shared that, and then you shared it here.
I can share it again if people want to look at it.
Well,
again.
I guess the question is it that you want like our buy-in to put that to Weston and Sampson, or has it been sent to them already?
Well, I sent it in an email to everyone.
Right.
It was a response to Cassidy.
Okay.
So I doubt that she has included that without our telling her to. I would imagine.
Okay.
So yeah. So you guys have to tell me whether or not you agree that should be put into the plan.
All right. Any of our committee members have a comment on that, one way or the other?
I have no objection to it.
John?
Is John frozen?
I think it's a good idea. I think it's also something that can be discussed in the draft form. It gets into the action plans, and there'll be feedback from people in the community and people who it might affect, or people who have expertise in that area. We'll get some more feedback, but
That's a really good way of thinking about it.
that's
Yeah.
what?
I said that's a good way of thinking about it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
I can tell them to do
If
that.
you want to let them, know we'd like to emphasize that a little bit more and some of the thoughts in the matrix or framework that Connie brought up.
And the wording, obviously, they probably are better at providing wording, but
That makes sense. Yeah, I will definitely tell them. And then, if other comments come to mind, just email them to me. Directly, I can send them to Weston Simpson. We can do it from there. Or
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of compile them for our next meeting so that people can review them. We can do it that way.
Okay. And then if they need more feedback from us on anything in their next iteration of what they're doing, let us know. But I think, as I said before, the last meeting that we had that they came to was sort of the focal point of our feedback. So hopefully they're be able to sort of take it and keep advancing it on their side. But if there's anything that they need from us, just you'll continue to let us know.
Definitely.
Anyone have anything else for the climate action plan right now, Cassie?
Although it's not yet in, formal draft or whatever, the marching orders for edict seem pretty clear, that it's about packaging information to get to businesses. Would it be premature for them to start working on that now? Tossing ideas around and
I'm not sure what you, can you speak more about that? I'm not sure what you mean, what you're referring to.
that there are
EDIC. EDIC, it's the economic development,
Right. I know what that is, but what were you?
that there are activities in the work plan. I don't know if it's even officially called a work plan yet, but tasks that appear to be appropriate for edict.
Okay, I'm
to take
sorry, I
on.
didn't understand what you're saying first. Of course, yeah.
So would it be premature? They need work. Would it be premature for them to start thinking about this?
So what we have right now is kind of the list of actions in like very short form. And what Weston Sampson is working on now is fleshing those out and writing them out in long form. And then part of that is identifying who would be the best groups or communities or groups or departments within the city to pursue the actions. I don't know if they have identified which ones EDIC would do yet. Because they may have, but just haven't shared that with me yet. But it might be obvious which ones would be ones that would make sense to them, or there might be ones that they're particularly interested in. My thought was that once we kind of had these actions more fleshed out, so they were easy for anyone who read it to understand, that we would shop this out to each board and committee, including to them.
Okay.
So that was my thought. But however the committee wants to do it, we can do it that way. We have to ask Weston and Sampson, I think, to create something to give to them, if that makes sense. If you wanted to give them EDIC something right now, it would just have to be like an extra thing that Weston and Sampson would do. Does that make sense?
Kind of, sort of. I mean, in terms of government process, it makes sense.
No, I just don't know what would I give them right now of what we have. I don't know what I would give EDIC.
Well, Cassie, you're obviously on that committee as well. So yeah, what were you thinking? You wanted to be able to bring something there to discuss with them, to get them thinking about these and to get their feedback on priorities, or even just
if the activity is to make information about climate change and mitigation strategies available to businesses, how would we do that? Because that's clearly something that would fall under edicts, if not alone, but it at least as one component of doing that kind of education. Just a thought. We'll come down. We'll rate. We'll rest.
No, it's good.
They're good at resting.
No, I think it's good to want to get other people, involved and get them thinking about this stuff, and other committees, and because there are going to be all these different avenues that things happen. So just a matter, I think, to Cassie's point of what do we have that's ready to bring to them? What's like fully baked enough to like put in front of them as like, hey, really start thinking about this because it's going to be on your plate soon enough to be implementing or to be communicating or whatever. I wouldn't say quite yet. I'd say let's let Weston and Sampson get through this next revision process and incorporating our feedback. And then we can look at, what is the subset of things that might fall to EDIC and that we want to, put in front of them, and maybe, so you can bring it, or I can come to a meeting and say, hey, this is some of the stuff that's being discussed. I mean, theoretically, Weston and Sampson could even come, meet with them and talk about those elements of it, or how it might affect the business community.
Because what I have now is that kind of short form list of the actions. But I think even the version that I have now is since outdated from the last meeting that we did talking about those actions. So I would want to give them whatever is the most updated version. So I can talk to at my bi-weekly meeting with Weston and Sampson. I can ask them about that too and see what they would suggest. That's a good way to start reaching out to different boards and committees.
Yeah.
I have a feeling they're going to take the summer off.
EDIC.
EDIC?
I think.
Really? Wow. We're not taking the summer off.
No way.
Okay. What is the EDIC meeting schedule at the moment? Do you
They
know?
canceled the one for April, so it'll be the third Tuesday in May.
Okay.
I do know the EDIC not traditionally, but has had a difficult time staffing a quorum over the
Yes.
years.
Yeah. Well, I think our
What
next
time do they meet?
Or,
four. I think our next meeting will probably be the day before that.
Right.
I think we're moving to the third Monday for May to avoid Memorial Day. So we can have a further discussion at that point too.
Okay, cool.
About that for the following day. Okay. Any other climate action plan discussion or thoughts anybody has?
Public speak on that.
What's that?
I wanted to have a little, public, Carol Broder, I just wanted to agree with the trees thing. I think it's a really important thing to add to. And it beautifies our city too, to see the beautiful trees. And we can have our kids and read under them. And you can really incorporate, I think you'll get kids more interested in artwork if they can do something about artwork about trees and climate.
All right. I'm gonna wrap that up on that note.
What about in the notes here, we have, public and stakeholder review plans. We're just gonna use the plans that we were given. Oh, no, we weren't, I was thinking of that. Talk about that, or we're just on fire already?
I touched on it before,
Okay.
before we kind of loop back around.
Okay.
Again, as Weston and Sampson gets through their next iteration,
Right,
and
okay.
the person from the general public, Kathy, who spoke, was asking about where she could be
Okay.
reviewed. So,
All right,
Kathy told them it's available on the website. Current information is available on the website. New stuff will be posted there in the climate action plan section of the municipal website. And we will review with city agencies, committees, and other public review as we go through the process and actually get the finalized document together. So most specifics on that are TBD.
Thank you.
Sure thing. On to municipal aggregation, which will be a relatively short update because the last meeting, again, we had Good Energy show up. They gave us a roadmap of kind of steps. We're already a little bit off that schedule. Unfortunately, I am waiting for the mayor's office to say, yes, we can help you with the parts of this that we need. We need their help with, which is getting public information out, press releases, documenting stuff up on the city website. Last week was school vacation week. I think that had something to do with this. There was a city budget was in process. They just pushed that out in a press release last week for fiscal year 25. So I have a feeling that they were a little preoccupied with that. So follow up again with them this week. Basically, the time frame for that public comment period and public hearing is about a month long. So when we do get the go ahead for that, we'll just sort of adjust those dates out a little bit and figure out when the actual public hearing will be. Again, probably now after our next meeting, so we'll be able to game plan for that a little bit. So all that stuff, legal notices, flyers, social media, all that's in the roadmap that we have and for committees to do it. So for us, there's not a lot for us to do or discuss right now until we get that public comment period going. So that should be soon. It was supposed to be, I think, this week originally. So we'll look and see if maybe next week it's going to start instead or May or what have you. So still moving forward, just still okay. One step forward, one step sideways. That's that. Any questions or comments on aggregation from anybody on the committee? Okay. Heat pump pilot program, left this on here. I don't think I've seen any updates. Cassie, I don't know that you have any updates for us on this.
No, I don't, unfortunately. Yeah, so we're still just waiting for Mass CEC to approve that final. They solicited comments from Northampton and Easthampton, and now they've gotten those comments, and we're waiting to see what the final RFP would be, and then when they would issue it. Because I know that they're also simultaneously working on a larger one out in the eastern part of the state, and they're very similar. So I don't know if that's part of the reason it's holding up. Is that not out yet, or what the deal is? But
would you like me to email the person there? I'm trying to remember her name that we spoke to last. I can track it down.
Yeah, I think that probably would be a good thing. Yeah. Just this little
Okay, because it's just the RFP, right? They're supposed to be doing it for whoever's gonna run the program. Okay. All right, let me see. I'll send her a message and copy you on it and see if that can get us at least a little bit of an update on what's happening there.
Right.
I left the part in here about sort of the REAP grant info. Brought that up a couple of times, and actually Cassie for EDIC, there's some relevance to that. And as we discovered recently, we do qualify as a rural community for REAP purposes. So there's a lot of federal and other money available to businesses that want to do clean energy upgrades, solar and efficiency sorts of things. Then I actually ran into at a conference last week, 2 weeks ago in Philadelphia, a group that is their business model now is to help companies apply for these REAP grants, and basically they get they take a small portion of the money as like their fee to help them actually navigate the process of going and applying and getting the money in. So for EDIC, it could be something that they could be really instrumental in pushing out to the business community. Say, hey, do you know that this money is available? You want to save money on energy, you want to do solar, you might want to do something like these grants are available. And I think in some cases up to like 50% of the cost or more for some of this stuff. So that could be really interesting thing. And again, as part of like this heat pump pilot program outreach, that's again something else that EDIC would be involved in, hopefully trying to get this out to the business community. If we're going to include some businesses in that pilot program as well as residences, right, to be able to do a little bit of both. So I would love to, for us, as we're like spreading the word on things, right, getting more word out about the money that's available to businesses through REAP grants would be great, and something that I think could bear a lot of fruit, without any municipal obligation, really, just connecting the dots with people. All right. So anyway, again, once we have a little more info on the heat pump pilot and other things, maybe again we can go to EDIC and say, hey, are you aware of this? What can you do to help us? The Chamber of Commerce, another place that we probably want to go and say, hey, do your members know that this stuff is available? Is there a way we can get the word out on these sorts of things? All right, that's all I have for that.
Oh, can I mention something on that? Yeah, I was just at the Amherst Sustainability Fair Day. I'm not exactly sure what they called it, but I spoke with a couple of people there. One of them is a woman, I think it was Lori Goldner, who was talking to me. They had a little heat pump booth there. Give people advice and take names of people who had, were looking into it and needed help. She's gotten training with the I don't know if we'd mentioned this before in our group, but the Heat Smart Alliance does free training apparently for heat pump coaches. So she's they're moving on that in Amherst, and I'm going to look into it. I don't know if people know about it already, but it looks helpful. Plus, I just went through I went through a process in my own house, which has kind of educated me quite a bit more about heat pump issues. Anyway. Have you guys heard of the Heat Smart Assistance or Heat Smart Alliance?
I started taking that course and I got distracted. It's a lot of homework.
Yeah, they just finished.
But I think it's really good. Actually, I just couldn't do it. It was a bad time for me to be trying to do it. But
they just finished a round in April, and it looks like they might then offer another round in the fall.
Okay. It was at the booth. What were they doing? Were they actually demonstrating technology, or were they just helping walk people through the process, or what were they doing?
They had a kind of funny little display thing with a sign and a tiny little desk and like a fake window in it, and it said "Heat Doctor," something about sick heating system or whatever it is, Heat Doctor, and come up and talk to them, and they took names, and she knew some stuff. They didn't have technology. That was just something on the lawn on the commons there in Amherst.
Yeah, I participated in that course as well, Connie. I went through it to the end, but didn't, with no intention of becoming a coach, just because I don't have I'm not a resident of Easthampton and I don't have a heat pump, so it wouldn't make sense for me to be that person. But the concept is cool in that it's like you try to build this network of folks who are residents, their neighbors. They've gone through the process of getting a heat pump installed in their home or converting to that. And then they can be a person that folks who want to do in the future can talk to that's not a third party who has any potential financial interest in them doing it or not. And so they can just be like, hey, here's my experience and here's how I went through it. This training is helpful because it kind of just has continuity between all the coaches then of just a base level knowledge of how the heat pumps work.
Right.
And it was really cool. Heat Smart Alliance, it's cool work they're doing. I know other communities, I want to say Amesbury have implemented such a coach program of kind of organizing people in that way. Can't remember which town it was. I think it was Amesbury, but I don't know what their success has been in terms of how impactful it was, but it seems like it could be a cool resource, way to get people get involved at the very least, talking about things like this. So,
Nice. Okay, so I guess as we look for, public outreach opportunities, John, are you going to go through the whole thing and become like a certified?
Yeah, I don't think it's a real big deal. It's like a 5 session thing. And I guess she was talking about kind of being handheld. They'd go to a person's house and she'd kind of be like the apprentice and hear how this person talked to them about their options and the technology. And then you finally get released to do it on your own, I guess. But I would, I don't think it's offered again, looks like till fall, but it seems to fit right in with this heat pump grant.
Yes.
And the direction we're going with, and to try to assemble teams of people who can work with neighbors and other, members of the community who are interested, but are confused by, both the rebate programs and the technology and all that.
Mhm. Well, if you do it fast enough, at the risk of conflict of interest, you could probably answer the RFP to be the implementer.
I could answer it. I don't think I could answer it with any intelligence, but
$150,000 in it. But that'd be great. I mean, I don't know if Lori is the type of thing where it could be like what she's doing is brought to other towns, or she's focused on Amherst specifically, or
yeah.
Say that again. You just muted yourself.
Like an Amherst team they're working on right now, but she might share some information with us, what it was like, how they're doing things.
Yeah,
I'll talk with them.
Loan out their display to us if we wanted to set it up at the farmers market.
Probably.
Yeah,
it's kind of made out of toothpicks or something. I don't know how well it'll hold up.
Well, it's gonna try to make it over the bridge. Yeah. Okay. Well, again, I think for public outreach, like stuff like that is great to be able to have something that's like visual, right? Beyond just like a piece of paper with information, and having that sort of web of people intertwined that are spreading the word and connecting people to resources and so like that is great too. And again, what we're hoping that the heat pump pilot program will lead to like generating some good stories, generating some good case studies that people can like apply to their own individual situations, businesses and residents alike. All right, well, keep us posted on whether you go through with that, or what you learn.
Yeah.
And I'll email Meg and see if we can get some information on when we might expect an RFP to go out around that. And that again could be a piece of what we're going to be communicating with people about it. If we're doing like cultural chaos and things like that, it's a little ways off, but love to get more word out about all that stuff. Okay, on to our green communities and climate leader communities work. Again, I think our grant proposal status and whatever is just kind of where it is. We're still kind of in between things.
Where we left it off last time. So we're entering another grant round. There's 2 per year for the Green Communities program. We are a community in good standing because our annual report was accepted and we're meeting all the criteria for being a green community. My recommendation was looking at what the grant opportunities are. And nothing really jumped out to me. I was like, we need to go for it right now. And my request to you all was like, maybe it would be helpful for me capacity wise to focus on the cap and finishing getting the cap developed, as well as focus trying to see what we can do about potentially making ourselves eligible, meeting the criteria for the climate leader communities. Because because that seemed particularly reasonable because there's 2 grant rounds. And once we have the cap finished, it'll kind of help us refine what would be a good one to go for. Again, those grants are focused pretty heavily on things that the city can do for municipal buildings and building operations to reduce energy usage and save energy in those buildings. So they're pretty prescribed, as it were. Whereas the climate leaders designation is going to be a broader scope, as I understand it, including potentially seed funding for a sustainability coordinator position. Yes.
I have a question about the climate leader communities. Is our CAP going to have a roadmap that will fulfill the requirements of the application for the climate leader community?
Well, that was something that we talked about at the last meeting with Weston and Sampson, because that was something that was a key piece that I wanted to be the case, because what they want for the climate leader designation is really specific, and it doesn't really match what we were originally going to get from Weston and Sampson. But I spoke with Weston and Sampson and at the meeting, and they seemed to indicate like, yes, we are going to do that. We will have it in there like as an appendix to the climate action plan. One of the items will be this roadmap specifically for municipal buildings and operations because that calls out, what's the expected life expectancy of the current like hot water heater in the municipal wastewater treatment plant. What is the year we think it's going to be at end of life? What's the plan for doing a more efficient upgrade at that time? So it's really detailed. We probably have a lot of that information from the Honeywell study, and Weston Simpson hopefully can kind of compile and fill in the blanks and just create it. But I'm waiting on from them to see for them to tell me, okay, here's how we're going to do it. Here's how we're going to implement it, if that makes sense. But yeah, my understanding is based off of the last meeting, I don't know if we all agree, that seemed to be what they were indicating they could do. Right. And then the cap itself should fulfill all the other criteria, which is saying that there is like a commitment from the city to pursue this net zero carbon emissions by 2050. That will be something that's very easy to include in the cap, in my opinion. The other criteria, one of them is having an energy advisory committee. Check. And then the other 2 criteria were adopting the opt-in specialized code and adopting this kind of expand or more specific zero emission vehicles first policy. Because in order to be a green community, we have to have an efficient vehicle policy in place. We do, which basically says that whenever a new vehicle is to be bought by the city, it needs to be researched to be the most fuel efficient vehicle that makes the most sense for that department. So it doesn't require them to buy something that doesn't make sense for the department just because it's, electric, but that won't be the case for this one either. But it will explicitly say, instead of being most fuel efficient, it will say you need to explore getting an electric vehicle. If you can't do that, explore getting a plug-in hybrid. If that doesn't work, explore a hybrid, fuel hybrid, and then alternate fuels, and then you can get a combustion engine. If all of those ones still don't make sense, then you should go for that. So that revision of the language is what they want to see for that cap.
And where does that revision of the language happen?
Well, I've been discussing with, it would happen at the ordinance subcommittee meeting with the city council.
Okay.
And I've been speaking with City Councilor Owen Zarrett about potentially trying to figure out what the path forward would be for that, to do that, as well as the mayor, to see if that would be possible. And then also reaching out, obviously, to the departments which would potentially be most impacted by that, which includes the police department, the fire department, the Department of Public Works, and the Parks Department. They use vehicles most frequently.
Right.
And they're critical for their job, obviously. Mm-hmm. And so making sure that it makes sense to them and seems reasonable. One of the things about it that's coming either way is that police vehicles and emergency vehicles, or specifically police cruisers, used to be exempt from green communities requirement of that current fuel efficiency requirement we already have. But DOER is saying that that's going away. So police cruisers are going to have to meet a very similar standard anyways by FY26. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, that's coming anyways. And that will remain, but they're exempt still right now until FY26. And with this new ordinance, they would stay exempt until FY26, when it becomes required that even the baseline, they don't get exempt. But vehicles over a certain gross weight, like fire trucks and ambulances and things like that will remain exempt, and off-road vehicles will
School buses.
school buses. It will only apply to vehicles that the city owns. We can't, it won't apply to things that we contract out for. It'll only be for own vehicles.
Just jump in and see if I get John's attention.
No, I know, it's interesting, but,
Hello, the school bus.
yeah, school bus.
School bus. I'm listening.
And then, so that's one of the criteria. It's kind of a question mark still of would we be able to get that satisfied. Well, we can go for the climate leader designation. With many opportunities to do that in the future. The first round, the first possible opportunity will be July 25th. And so it's just, I'm trying to shoot for that target if possible, because it would be great to be able to, that would sync up quite nicely with the climate action plan being finished. Then we're become a climate leader designee. Now we have this other pot of grant opportunities available to us. So it'd be kind of cool to make it so we can hit the ground running, as it were. But we can try again in December if we're not ready. We don't have everything, all criteria met. But if it's okay with you guys, I'm going to try to see what we can do to make that.
Yeah, no, it's good to know that they're talking about that other piece, the vehicle policy, then the stretch code. We'll come back to you, Connie, for an update on that. Seems like those are two of the important pieces with the climate action plan, and then I guess what the net zero commitment. Yeah, and those are basically the pieces of the framework for having it. So
yeah.
So I mean, I think in theory, July 25th, all those could be met. What's any?
Things actually have been moving along. Connie Denham has really stepped up. The first thing we did is I got in touch with Lisa Cunningham, who is one of the people who started zerocarbon.org, which is focused on trying to get more communities to have the specialized code. And she connected us with a couple who got it passed in Bedford, and we had a Zoom meeting with them. And they gave us some great advice. They were really helpful. And so after that, Connie suggested I do a presentation to the ordinance committee, which I did. And one of the members wasn't there, and I'm sorry to say I don't know who it is that wasn't there, but one of the members wasn't there. And then Cassie and Jamie Webb and I also had a meeting where we once again sort of discussed what we're talking about, what this is, and Jamie felt that it was very appropriate for us to pursue it for a variety of reasons, including, of course, this issue of the climate leader community. So we now have a meeting. The next ordinance committee, let me see if I have this written down, do you have written down what it is?
The next ordinance meeting, I think it's actually tomorrow.
It's very soon. And she asked me to go, are you going to be able to go to that? And she's also asking some other, like Jamie will be there, and she's just trying to get the word out to other people who might be interested in knowing about this, to have another discussion just about what this is, why it's important for us to do it, why it makes sense. And one of the things I'd just like to say about this, having, spent more time with people talking about it, it seems like there's a lot of confusion about the fact that a lot of developers, and for very good reason, are not happy with how strict the code is, but it's not the specialized code. It's the stretch code that's now in place and has been in place since it was revised. The code was revised, and there are a lot of changes in that code. There's no question. The specialized code changes are actually not that dramatic. They require the big thing they do is they require pre-wiring of new construction. So even if a developer chooses not to build all electric, say, they still have to put in the wiring so that it can be easily changed to all electric in the future, as opposed to which will obviate an enormous expense for homeowners and landlords to suddenly have to pull out walls and start putting in different wiring. So anyway, things are moving along, and I'm feeling pretty hopeful about it.
Do you have an estimate on, goes to the ordinance committee, like when something might be put in front of the city council, when they may actually vote on something?
I think I'll have a better idea of that after this next meeting that we're having.
Okay.
Yeah, so we should know that.
Can I add slightly to?
Sure, of
So
course,
I
please do.
just want to say, I'm also going to planning to go, but all I would really speak to is just how it impacts our potential to try to go for this climate leader designation, which is just because it's fairly new. I don't think a lot of people know about that as a thing that exists. I'll explain what role it has in it, why we would want to go for that designation. And for Jamie's piece, she was able to speak specifically to the potential impact that she thought it might have on affordable housing, and why, which I think is a legitimate concern for what people are like, oh, how would this impact affordable housing? So, yeah, it is an interesting.
And she said that she did not think it would have any effect, primarily because people who are getting grants to build affordable housing are already held to a very high standard that that the specialized code does not. It's not a higher standard than the specialized code. I mean, it's either equal to or higher than what the specialized code would require anyway. So she doesn't think it would be an issue.
And I think a compelling point when I also asked the Chris Mason, the regional coordinator from DOER, about this. He was able to share some documents. He's not going to be able to go tomorrow. But his point also too was that they are in a presentation that he gave at a public meeting that was given through PDPC, I think, or I can't remember who it was. His point was, someone asked a similar question about affordable housing. His point was that they could potentially be, not sure if it'd be more expensive to build, but they are cheaper to live in because they're more efficient in terms of energy.
And healthier to live in too. I mean, that's another issue that, in the same way we're concerned about the fumes that kids are being exposed to by buses, homes that are burning fossil fuels inside buildings, children are breathing in the fumes from that, which is, a lot of doctors are very concerned about that.
So all of that is just like I plan to go as well.
I'm glad you'll be there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, good to know that you can moving forward, and we'll look for an update on when the city council may take it up as a whole at our reconvene next month.
Great.
All right, so then on the topic of vehicles and school buses, John, I'll let you. I know we didn't really connect directly about this briefly, but John did receive a fairly comprehensive response from the mayor in our attempts to get in front of the school committee to get their buy-in on more aggressive or even just like any sort of push for electric buses. The mayor had some qualms and questions, and I guess some things that just sort of maybe preventing like a full steam ahead sort of approach to this. John, you want to summarize real quick the response that you got?
Well, yeah, I mean, I had emailed the mayor as an avenue to try to, since she sits on the school committee, to try to figure out the best way to kind of move this along and get it before the full school committee. Because we've been waiting really for months for that to happen. They're focused on budget and contract negotiations. And so she sent a response to the email about a week or so after I wrote her, and it included the what do you call administrator of the district, Binyenda, and also Laura Scott from the school committee, and Lindsay, and which I think the comments and the questions would have been fine to come to us because she's either remembering things she had heard in the past or come across new information in her dealings with other municipalities. But she's, had some concerns about obstacles in the way of moving forward to bus electrification. And I guess I wish she would have brought them to us, but instead of sharing them with the school committee so I could answer them. And I think several of them had reasonable answers, had, satisfactory answers. Some of it had to do with, she was saying other towns that have worked on regionalizing school buses have not succeeded. Well, we weren't talking about regionalizing the school districts. We were talking and publicly owning a bus transportation system. We were talking about joint bidding in some cases, which leaves you with your own municipal contract with a bus company, and or just applying for grants with Durham as the basically the sponsor, the glue of it, because they are the contractor with with several regional, several districts that are adjacent to each other. So that was one kind of question. There was another one about
Infrastructure was another one, right? And
well, I
like
was concerned about you know, the difficulty and expense of putting chargers, bus chargers, battery chargers into all the different communities. Well, that's really that, you know, it might be advisable and it might be better than having one central location. Depends on the range of the buses and the routes and, you know, all that planning. But right now, if it was going to happen, it would happen where Durham depot their buses, and it wouldn't be in every individual community. And the liability concerns that she has also about, I guess there's some liability concerns for chargers, even EV charger locations. She's saying, are they bigger concerns, liability concerns because they're bus chargers? I don't know. I don't think these are reasons not to pursue and talk with other communities. Everything's got hurdles. And so there was some other stuff. And
That's really unfortunate, John. I'm sorry.
yeah, well, it's okay. Thank you. But you know, these are questions that are going to get raised. I just wish they came to us and then we could talk about them. And then, you know, but now I don't know if the school committee thinks of this, but what I'd like to do, I guess, is, you know, I kind of wrote up my responses to these to Jamie. And I'm sorry I didn't get back to you. You said you were available today and tomorrow, and I hadn't responded to you about possibly sitting down. But I'd like to sit down with the mayor, arrange a time. Well, maybe Jamie and I'd meet first, but to sit down with the mayor and go over her concerns.
Yeah.
And then I'd like to respond or just respond to her concerns in email and include the very people that she CC'd on the school committee so they get some information, which is a little more, I think, a little more germane, you know, and accurate.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one possible thing. I mean, one thing I thought of, like, we can just respond directly to that. Again, I wasn't sure if maybe she'd be here today. We'd have a chance to talk through it a little more, you know, directly with her in the room, which would have been useful. But, you know, we could always go back to a public school committee meeting and do public speak and just sort of put this information out in front of and get in front of the whole school committee and say, you know, we know you're not going to be able to debate this right now, but we can spend our 5 minutes of public speak and just like say, hey, this is what we think. We understand there are obstacles. We just want, you know, we want your help to help remove the obstacles that we can control right now, right, to help make this happen, because we do think it's important and whatever. So that's another option. Not to go through this in too much depth here, but yeah, maybe you and I can get together, you know, in the next week or so to like talk through and game plan and figure out how we might want to go about that.
Her final sentence in the email was, I'm very supportive of EV buses, but on the city side, there are other opportunities to lower carbon impact that do not require heavy bureaucratic change. I'm not quite sure what that means and how this is necessarily heavy bureaucratic change, but I do think that we should talk to the mayor or give feedback prior to going and sitting down with the school committee and doing public speak, because she gets wind of that, she's going to feel undercut, or like we didn't communicate with her about her letter.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Josh, did you have something else you wanted to add?
No, I was just agreeing. You don't want to undercut the mayor. But you know,
no, definitely not.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we want to, you know, we're just trying to get the conversation going, right? And just like making sure that the school committee has a chance to hear and to think about the issues involved, right? Because they don't even necessarily know all the relevant things, or like all the the information that John has gathered that we've discussed here. We just want to get that in front of them and see, you know, they may have some ideas, they may have some, but they may say, you know what, we got too many other things to worry about. You know, you all can keep going with this, try to make some progress, but we're not really gonna be able to take it up, or, you know, it's not a priority. But yeah, give them a chance to have the information and give us some feedback. Because if they're like, you know what, it's just not important to us right now, and we're not gonna, then you know, that says to us, okay, we should put our resources elsewhere. I mean, just like the mayor's saying, maybe there is something else that can be a bigger impact from a carbon or, you know, an emission standpoint. Right. But this is also something that's, you know, it's coming, it's happening, And there's different ways we can go about it potentially. And it's something that eventually is going to be there. And again, if we can be more of a leader on it, I know from the standpoint of the committee, we've discussed this many times, like we like to be out at the forefront, right? We don't want to just wait till it's forced on us. We'd rather be proactive about it and try to take some action, knowing that our hands are tied in a lot of ways by just the nature of the contract and how it runs and how things are currently set up. So it is a lot of obstacles to overcome. John's done a great job of researching those and putting them in front of us so that we understand the lay of the land. And
Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you, John.
You're welcome. So Jamie, do you want to get together or do you want to just try to see if the mayor will sit down with us for 15 minutes or get on?
Yeah, why don't you and I discuss real quick? Okay. Let's get together for
Okay.
half an hour or something and just sort of talk it through.
Okay.
I think that'd be worthwhile.
All right. I'll get back to you after the meeting.
Sounds good. All right. Anybody have anything more on this topic? We can move on. All right. Electric vehicle infrastructure dovetails from this. You have
Just quickly,
update?
yeah.
Go ahead.
I thank you again to John. He was able to meet with me. We were talking about, I really did my deeper dive and figured it out. I made contact with our rep at Eversource, Esther. I can't remember what her last name is, unfortunately, right now. But she was able to confirm with me that basically, and also I met a person when we did the street painting who was mentioning that there is a rate plan. I was able to find out that our rate plan was updated, but I wasn't sure if it was one of these two apparently that exists and one has demand and one doesn't. And I can't remember that person's name, but they were, it was really nice to talk to him. I knew what I had to say when I called Eversource now to be like, we have this rate plan that doesn't have the demand charge associated with it. And I confirmed that we do since January.
Okay.
I guess we have been on that rate plan. So for the EV chargers here at City Hall and the EV chargers at Love Field, they're both on their own meters.
Right.
And that allows them to be able to not reach a certain threshold of use that makes them eligible for this non-demand charge rate. So they're set up with that, which is good. The question is now, how many more could we expand upon at what's there to still not breach that threshold? Can we do any? I don't know.
On the same meter, you
On
mean?
the same meter.
Okay.
Because there is a certain threshold that you can't pass and then
Right.
you can't get that non-demanded.
Right.
That would be the next thing to figure out, can we add any more? And if not, okay, fine. Then where can is there somewhere else that we want to expand to? The other question was for the school.
Yeah.
What's up with their EV chargers? They are turned on. But the meter for those chargers is tied to the whole school.
Okay.
So since they're not on their own meter, they're not eligible. They're breach that threshold every day because the whole school is obviously
There's a huge
dying.
demand, yeah.
Yep. And so they can't get that rate plan.
Okay, so they're on the higher rate plan, but they are on and available for people.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But they just don't, just quickly, they just don't get as much use because
Yeah.
people aren't parking there and then going to events. People are only using it if there's school events. So,
Right.
Yeah, sorry.
So I'm just trying to understand what the difference is between the fact that this building uses electricity and yet they're able to have a separate plan for the chargers. Could we get a separate plan for the schools chargers?
The reason that the way it's set up here is that there's the building energy that's on one meter,
Right,
one account.
right,
And then there's the EV chargers are on their own meter, one
Right.
account. The ones at the school, there may have been some other reason that they decided it should all be on one meter. And I don't understand and I wasn't.
yeah. I'm just
involved
wondering
in that.
whether that could be changed.
Well, I don't know. That's another.
This is part of, can I interrupt or can I interject?
Yeah.
This was part of the Eversource demand charge reform plan that they submitted and had accepted by the DPU. And one of the specific provisions of it is that this rate that we have, that the town has for Payson and Lovefield, because they are separately metered, you're not eligible unless you're separately metered for the EV charging station. So I guess, they're not going to change the rules. They might decide to put in a meter at the school location. I'm not sure if that's pays off or not, but
Yeah.
they're not going to change not likely to change the Eversource's reform submission that they got approved by the DPU.
Well, that's another interesting thing to take to the school committee as well, because if they could get it separated out on another meter, like what's their cost for it? Or what are they paying right now? Because I'm assuming it's all part of the school budget. And then if you can get that separate metered out and remove that demand charge, get on this other rate, like would that save them money? Even again, knowing that the chargers aren't even being used all that much. So you're still paying a demand charge anyway, right? But you're not getting the revenue to really support it if you're not having them used all that much. So I wonder how that might be affecting like what the line item of their budget looks like for that.
That's a good question.
So
The only other thing I'll add about it, so that was the other piece, is that the reason the demand charge was such a problem is because it was making it the expense, the bills that we got from Eversource for people using them could not match what we feed people to use them. Because that was originally we were like, oh, we can just charge people or fee them to use the machine that'll pay for the energy bills that we get from Eversource. We weren't able to do that because of the demand charge. What I want to see, because it's only been since January, as far as I can tell, that it's not been applied. We need, I think, more months of data to see, okay, well, now are we generating enough revenue from feeing users to pay for that cost?
right.
That would be great if that's the case. It's okay right now because we're able to use the credits from the South Deerfield Solar Company to pay for the EV chargers right now. So there's a big chunk of money just kind of credited to the EV chargers that's paying for that. So the question then becomes, could we free up those credits if we can
Right.
find out that the fee is covering it that way?
Right.
But the last piece is that the EV chargers also have a cost associated with like these kind of periodic warranty renewal / networking cost. And so maybe we want to use the fees. So it just opens doors for how to
Right.
deal with the fees and what like the revenue being
Well,
generated.
in one way or another, that revenue is coming into the city and being used somewhere.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I think it might, for a while, it was being used, I think, towards paying the bills before we got rid of the demand,
Right.
and before we applied this credit. But I don't know, it's basically been going to DPW because they took on the ownership of paying those bills originally.
So the revenue is coming into
Yeah,
DPW
so-
as well.
Exactly. So what I need to do is talk to DPW and be like, hey, so how much of this revenue, what's left? How much should we generate? How could we use, does it make sense going forward to use this towards paying and
Right.
free up those credits, or is the credit system really the best way? And to use those for something else, potentially the revenue.
Yeah, I mean, is there somebody there that could even just say, let's look at the Eversource bill and our revenue bill that ChargePoint or whoever is sending us? Assume is it ChargePoint sends the revenue because they collect
Yes,
it, right?
exactly.
You can say, can somebody just look at those two bills side by
Yeah.
side for a month and say, how close are they? Or a
That's what
couple
I'm going to try to
months?
do. And
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
wanted to generate more data because I only have since January.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'd want to make sure it's not like an outlier because January is a slow month or something like that. How much data is needed, I couldn't say. I guess see what DPW and the procurement officer maybe thinks is a logical amount to feel comfortable with that decision.
Josh.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like with the way we have this set up too, it's like when somebody talks or makes a noise, they become like the most prominent face on the screen.
I'm huge,
And
yeah.
so I was like, you jumped up and I was like, oh, you got something to say. All right.
Well, I just have to say, I mean, Cassie has really worked hard to get this information. Every meeting we ask Cassie what's going on, and it hasn't been easy.
Well,
So thank you for doing that.
And really,
definitely
especially outside the purview of their job
Yeah,
title,
really. Yeah.
nothing
Mine's
else.
like limit of understanding for sure, but John has been huge also. So thank you to John.
Yes.
He
Yes.
was doing a lot of hard work, especially reaching out and talking to Chris, Nick Bernier and people at the school and things like that. So, but I feel like we have all the information now. It's like, okay, how do you make a decision? And hopefully next meeting I'll have talked to DPW and I can tell you all what I found out there. But that's where I'm at. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. So no other plans obviously for the city right now. And again, whether that might feed into a grant or something for future implementation. I mean, you mentioned in a previous part of the discussion today about, are there other places we might want to look to put stuff? I guess it's part of like the zero emissions first thing. There are more. I mean, we certainly are going to need more charging infrastructure, right? Whether it's public or private, and where those might be and like how they might be paid for upfront and ongoing.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Last little bit here, a new and other business we did. So I think with the March 25th meeting, Sunwealth sent somebody and gave us a little presentation on their community solar partnership. Talked about some of the other municipalities and organizations that they've partnered with to basically try to get community solar subscribers within specific communities. They asked for our potential support or working with them on something like that. I have the April 25th meeting, so you forwarded me something else. That's another meeting that they're doing with.
Yeah, they were just saying that they were like gonna be in the neighborhood.
Oh, they're going to be in town or coming through town or something.
Yeah,
So-
and I wasn't really sure if that was something you all were interested in taking up on. I was like, because it seemed like where we left off was that we wanted to see how this would like kind of work with municipal aggregation as a question, and there was a question of like,
should we have an RFP and so they can open it up to other companies that are doing the same
Right.
thing?
Like, do we want to partner? Like, right. Essentially like have them become an official partner of the city, then they're a private business, like, assuming profit seeking business.
yeah, in full disclosure, it's just like it's just again bumping up on like capacity and understanding of like, oh boy, here's another one,
Yeah.
project that we're working on, which all are important projects, and if it's something that's going to be beneficial, I want to do it. But yeah, I've just been like focusing on.
Yeah.
Maybe
no,
we should just table that for a while and come back.
Yeah,
to
I
it.
might try to see if they're going to come to town. They want to meet for half an hour. I might see if I can meet with them on Thursday just to get more information I can bring back the next time on steps. Or again, they have partnered with other cities in the Commonwealth, so it's not unheard of for cities to do this. But I'd like to know a little more about like the legal ramifications or like what exactly that looks like in terms of what the city would provide to them, or being an official partner, what that means, like what the city kind of gets out of it as well, I guess, other than of course increased participation in solar and community solar, which is in my opinion a net good, but like also our private businesses, and it's like a little different than just like a municipal aggregation, which is
Another question I have is I wonder whether the program up at I can't say River Valley, I can't say the co-op, whether they ever got full, whether they got enough people participating with their program.
right.
It'd be interesting to know that. Just
Right. Is Sunwolf the official
They were,
one
like,
there?
related
They got the
Yeah.
carve out for the low income piece.
Yes, I think that.
Right. They because it was the other. All these programs have there's a carve out for low income subscribers.
right.
And right, so they had the one, and then Nexamp maybe had the other one for the regular subscribers, or at least that was another one that she talked about. So let me see if I can meet with them and talk further about that. It eventually dovetails back with the mayor's interest in possibly leasing property for solar. That would be like a community solar project that the city would have some hand in. Then maybe that makes more sense to have a partnership in a case like that. But again, then you got to partner with the developer and get the whole thing going up front. So I don't know how all that's a lot of machinations to put together. All right, so I'll take that on. I'll get back to her and see if Thursday, we'll see what time works. I got to work around some dentist appointments, I think. And then cultural chaos, which I'm trying to look up when exactly that's going to be. It's going to be June 8th. I'll say maybe it's the second Saturday.
Yeah, June
8th. Okay. All right. So planning is officially having a table. I think to the extent that our committee wants to be there like we were last year, kind of you there last year for part of it. So we would share with them, and the Bees committee maybe would have somebody there too. Some information, again, depending on where we're at with aggregation, the climate action plan, there may be some information to distribute there. Probably not a heat pump pilot program quite yet at that point in terms of anything active, but could be lots of opportunities to talk to people about different things, could get information on what people are interested in. If anybody's interested in being a part of that, we can certainly confirm at our next meeting, but anyone interested off the
I
bat
think I'm going to
table
have
in?
a grandchild's birthday that day.
Okay,
That takes precedent.
yeah, got Cassie's in, okay, I'd like to be there for part of it.
Be outfit.
If I'm in town, I'll be part. Without a doubt.
Gosh, you see, okay, great.
If I'm in
Well,
town.
costumes are certainly optional, but encouraged.
Did you say June 8th?
8th, yeah.
Okay, I'm out of town, unfortunately.
I'm around. I have a soccer game in the afternoon to coach, but other than that, I should be around for the morning.
And
What
I-
time does it start? Does it start like early afternoon?
I don't remember. It doesn't say on here.
Yeah.
I couldn't see it quickly, but I will plan to be there for the entirety of it. And so I can speak to some of the things the EAC would do. So if you just come for a chunk of time, it's still helpful. And then just I'll have the directive of what y'all want me to try to.
Is that Save gonna be there?
Mass Save? That's a good question. I don't know. Or maybe one of their Mass Save partners will have a table.
Because that would be kind of a cool, if you want a heat pump, go see Mass Save.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I know there was, I see somebody recently, there was a guy set up at a table inside Albashon recently. I think it was like from one of their partners, like looking to sign people up for that. I wonder if you got cultural chaos people of Easthampton City Arts could tell us if there's something like that signed up.
Do you want me to follow up?
Sure. Let's see, it looks like the deadline to apply was April 15th, so they should theoretically know by now.
And I did apply on behalf of the planning department for a
Right.
table that would be, or a space, 10 by 10 space that'd be shared by EAC and the Beast Committee.
Okay.
Planning doesn't have anything we need to like present really. So it would just be split between the two committees. So.
Okay. Noon to 5 p.m.
Oh, okay.
The official time. So I could certainly be there for the first bit, maybe the first couple hours.
Cool.
All right. So Cassie, Josh, myself, Cassie.
It's possible I may be out of town, but if I'm in town, I'm in.
I think, yeah, we know your jet setting lifestyle. You know, it's like, we never know where you're going to be.
I wish it were being fun.
Yeah,
Okay. And then, the farmer's market starts up when in May, the outdoor one.
That sounds
I
right.
know the indoor one just wrapped up.
Yeah.
But that's another opportunity for, again, like a heat pump demonstration, like the Amherst Sustainability one, or to, again, get information out about aggregation, about climate action plan, and any public events that we're having.
Are they going on Sundays now? the
I think
farmers
it's been on Sundays here, yeah. Usually from like 9 to 1 or something like that. I don't know if they have an official start date yet. But we should look at getting a table, like having something set up there one day early on in May if possible.
I can help with that for sure.
Okay.
It's me, it's not a birthday weekend.
Yeah, it just says weekly throughout the summer. It says Sundays 10 to 2. I don't know if they have an official opening date yet. Yeah, who runs that? It's not the city, right?
It's not the city.
Somebody else.
Yeah.
So we need to find that out.
Run that. Yeah, do you want
Yeah,
to reach out?
When we were advertising the cap, I booked a couple of those, so I should have that somewhere, who the contact would be, unless it's changed since then. But yeah, Connie, if you want to email me.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, yeah, see if we can find out when that's going to be. All right, our next meeting is May 20th. We have anything else?
Yes, I was talking to my daughter-in-law about all the things that we're doing and how she, who is not on Facebook, as most people her age are not, has never heard of any of this except for me. And I think we have a problem.
We do.
And one of the things she suggested is that organizations like the Hilltown Kids, there's an organization that disseminates information. I think it's really for homeschoolers, but they do a lot of other stuff. Every month they put out a newsletter.
Yeah.
And she suggested, I think it's a great idea. I don't know who would do it, Cassie, but it would be great.
Like shake your head quickly.
It would be great if we could come up with a way to have a monthly newsletter, because I think one thing that is very frustrating is that even if you know something is happening, if you go to the city website and try to find the information you're looking for, it can be difficult, as opposed to going to the city website and seeing the link to the newsletter of all the things it's happening that month, not just from our committee, but all the stuff that people might want to know about that's happening this month. I think it would be wonderful. I'm just throwing it out there for us to think about how we might orchestrate it. I'm not saying I think you should do it. I'm
You're
just
saying like a citywide kind of thing?
yeah, like all the things that people might, if they aren't on Facebook,
Right.
like also, for example, how long is Union Street going to be torn up? That kind of stuff too. Like that kind of information that
That's
people.
on the city site, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was.
But I'm saying though that if it was a newsletter, people and the newsletter could be linked on Facebook. I think it would. I think
Like
people
an
would be more
email
likely.
newsletter, or
It could be emailed if people. Yeah, people could ask to be on the
My
email.
dad was in PR and he said newsletters are the kiss of death. We're
Yeah.
just like, you don't want to get near.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I have grandchildren. I read the Hilltown one every month when it comes, and I know a lot of.
I get stuff. Yeah, but if you email's so tough because everyone, I say this as somebody with so many email accounts, it's like
Yeah.
everyone's overloaded.
Well,
It's like it's hard to cut through the clutter. Everyone everyone has this idea like I want this piece of information, like how long is Union Street going to be torn up? I want to click twice and have that information given to me. And unfortunately, like to disseminate information about like a heat pump program or aggregation or any of this stuff and a climate action plan, it's like it's so hard to have a centralized repository that's like easy to navigate and easy to manage, because you got to get all that information up there and you got to have it look good, right? You got to have it like easy navigation, and like that all takes a lot of thought and a lot of effort and implementation to do those sorts of things. Even creating a newsletter. Speaking of somebody who creates a monthly one for my job, like we have to. It's a lot of coordination and a lot of things to get.
Can I interject? Another thing that it could be an alternative for Facebook is a lot of people that generation use Instagram. And if we're already doing Facebook, we could have that just also go to Instagram. Because I know both my daughters are 33 and 36, and they hardly ever use Facebook, but they use Instagram a lot. So that's another thing. That's a lot easier than a newsletter.
I thought you were going to say Truth Social.
Beat Social?
Truth Social.
Is that the Trump thing? No. Be behind me.
What I would say, I think that this is a perennial problem that is legitimate. People do say, like, I had no idea this is happening. And all I can say for the conservation, the climate action plan, at least, like a good example of like, we put in a lot of effort to put as much outreach about that when we did the workshops as possible. So we went door to door to each and every business on Union Street and Cottage Street, and sent mailers to all the businesses in the industrial parkway, and the industrial complex. And then John and I also handed out flyers throughout the mills, physically handing out flyers to people. We also sent emails to everybody that we had on our email list, people who said they were explicitly interested through the survey and things like that. We put up posters in the laundromats, specifically trying to reach EJ communities, environmental justice communities. Again, the point here I'm trying to make is a mix of physical and virtual. We did letters, we did articles in the Gazette and the Reminder. We did posts on the city Facebook pages, not just the planning page, but also the main city one, the police department Facebook page and their Instagram, the city arts coordinator Instagram and their Facebook page. We did, we held the meetings as a hybrid, so people could attend in person or virtually, provided a ride service to and from them. Yeah. We provided food beyond just snacks, like a dinner, like substantial food to them, and made them family friendly to try to make them as accessible as possible to people. And
we went to the grocery stores.
We tabled at the grocery stores.
The community center.
We tabled at the Easthampton Community Center during the food distribution lines. We did that many times.
And it was cold.
It was wicked cold. It was fun to do. Met a lot of cool people. And then we tabled at cultural events like this Cultural Chaos and the Millside Park concerts. So I think that it's just, even though it feels like we do a lot, we need to do more and keep doing it. And when people say they don't hear, we need to recognize that and keep trying.
Well, I just say that, I think that something needs to happen with the city website, because because one of the things that I find frustrating is that the planning department may have something going on, but you have to go to the planning department before you see it. Well, it's not just, and it should be on the front page. I don't know. I think we need to change it. It's information
on the front page is that there is a feed of the Facebook feed. So if they post something there, then it will show up on the front page there. There's also the calendars on the front page. But again, you have to know to scroll down to find those things and to navigate them. And then there's like the notify me thing you can sign up for whenever an agenda is posted and things like that. And then the last thing I think too, that at least that I've been trying to do for the climate action plan is that if you use the search bar and just search CAP, or I've like tried to expand the possible things people would search. So sustainability plan, just the word sustainability, climate action plan, like all the different kind of iterations that someone would use. If you search those, any of those keywords, you'll get one of the listed things that comes up should be the CAP webpage. So that at least is a place for the one that's in my control, which is the CAP. So I don't think that you are. Okay, I don't think that you are at all. But I think it is a good discussion to have. And I just trying to explain, okay, here's what we've done, but yeah, what more could we do?
What more could we do? I mean, we've talked about this a bunch of times. There's no silver bullet, right? Unfortunately, some of this stuff is built in, right? When we do aggregation, we have to do a mailer out to everybody, right? Every ratepayer is going to get that. So that's when people will find out that it's happening, right? If they don't already know, because there's just not, and there'll be public hearings, and we again, as Cassie just elucidated, like did so much outreach and so many different times for us as like volunteers and one, staff person who's pulled in 50 different directions. And it's, and again, there's not really, there's a technology team here, but there's not somebody who's dedicated, on staff who's dedicated to like keeping the website updated, like being like sort of the social, coordinator, like, disseminating information about what's happening across all the different pieces, right? The Easthampton City Arts does their own thing. Other groups will, the National Aquatic Pond Committee does their thing. Like, it's kind of up to us to do our own thing. There's just not that centralized piece or place. And so that's of course beyond our purview to like think about or implement something like that. I think it's something that probably a lot of places struggle with because everything is so balkanized right now in terms of where people get information, how they want to receive it. Do they want to seek it out? Do they want it delivered to them? If you do that, how do you deliver that in a way that they're going to see it and actually read it? This is the $1 trillion question across all things right now. Like, how do you reach people?
Okay, I'll try.
Remember that no matter how hard we try, there will always be someone.
Always be somebody that's not going to.
I can tell you, like talking to my kids' friends who are all that demographic, none of them have heard of any of this stuff. It's all news when I bring it up.
Right.
Oh, really?
Well, if they wanted to find out,
they're not choosing to be engaged with what's going on.
That's true. Oh, absolutely
Right?
true.
That's
That's
their
absolutely
choice.
true. But I wish we had a really great way to at least have them know about stuff. But
then there's like the school. The school is the school parent.
children.
I want to be involved in what's going on with the school, and I want them to deliver information to me. And then they send me information. I'm like, oh my god, it's so much. It's like I can't possibly digest and like be a part of all this because it's too much. You get overloaded really fast. You sign up for newsletters or whatever. You just like eventually it's something you got to give. So it's two sides of the coin. It's just clutter and but also how do you cut through the clutter to get people's attention. I do think, to bring this back, we've done a good job with a lot of things. We've tried to really like do our outreach in a lot of different ways and try to reach a lot of different communities and people. I think that's really valuable. I think it's a good thing. But when we do want to look at what are some other avenues, like let's see, how can we reach more people with like what's going to get us the most reach? I do think Instagram is actually a good one because there is the trend with people younger than me is that is where a lot more is happening, right? There's a lot more things are being seen there. And people are on that every day, right? And multiple times per day. So I'm seeing it again with my job. We're making a push to move more in that direction with some of the stuff that we're doing because it does get a lot more engagement and it gets more eyeballs on it.
Maybe we should also think about TikTok.
Video is a whole other thing, right? Video to produce and do video that requires.
But you can just have a static video. Just a sign and then it runs for just a couple of seconds.
Yeah,
on TikTok.
That could be too. Yeah,
it's just I think it's an evolving thing that we can't ever say. We're not going to, and I don't think that's what we're saying. We're not going to throw up our hands and be like, well, we tried. We're always going to keep trying. I'm going to a webinar. I don't know, just on the next week. That MMA is doing, Mass Municipal Association on community engagement. So I'm going to try to go to that and see and just keep trying to learn.
Yeah.
Like if there's new ways that people come up with, or things that people have found has been particularly effective. That is a commitment we are all seemingly willing to make here. So like, we're just gonna keep trying. We're
Yeah,
not gonna stop
for sure.
trying. And when we hear people say they didn't find out, we're gonna listen. So I think that.
Listen, tell them to come and learn and spread the word.
Yeah.
And to Josh's point though, with the Instagram thing, right? It is integrated well with Facebook, so you can have something where you're just like posting to both, like
Good.
really. So yeah, I'll look at number one. I know we have our page on Facebook, which is largely quiet. Moribund. That's a good word. Yeah. But again, it's up to somebody has to take ownership of like posting to it and like.
Cassie has to give me a lesson.
Yeah, well, I can talk to you about that too. But anyway, so I'll take that on as like me, and if you're interested in helping, or Josh or whoever.
Yeah, I am, but I don't know how to transfer like a poster to a page. That's what I don't know how to do.
Okay.
So, okay. Moving on.
And the other thing is with the city webpage too, we can request updates to what's on our page on the city's website. So if we'd like to highlight some certain things, or even if we're going to be posting more and we want to have them integrate a feed from like our Facebook page onto that so that people can see that, we could ask for some changes to this, our webpage. That is one thing that the Bees Committee is working on actively, is like, what content do we want up there? What can we ask them to do? Can they create a new page for us? They can't create like a separate page outside the city's website, but you can maybe create some sub pages in there too if you want to have layers of things.
I know. So, but the pages that we're going to have for the aggregation,
Yes,
that will be separate for this.
that's a separate. They're creating a separate program website for that.
And then there'll be a link from the city website.
We will
to
probably,
it.
yes,
Okay.
probably. I don't know the exact mechanism for that, but yes, it will be linked.
Okay.
The age-old problem of how do we get people to recognize all the good work that's being done everywhere, and the cool things that we hope people will engage with. Does anybody have anything else for new business today?
Nope.
Nothing.
That is enough. But we're an hour and 40 minutes. Too bad.
A motion to adjourn.
All right, I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.